What's going on, guys? Today we're going to take an in-depth look at what the joints are, why they're important for both athletes and non-athletes, and what you can do to improve your joint health. So first of all, joints are just a space in between bones. So let's say my hip bone and my hip socket, the joint is that space in between. Joints allow us to gain information from the environment. So it's a sensory organ. And at the same time, as a physical component, it allows us to move, flex, extend, rotate, etc. Now, why are they so important? Well, your joint health dictates how well that joint can move. And how well a joint moves dictates your overall movement capacity, right? So what about an unhealthy joint? That's a joint that cannot go through its full range of motion without restriction or with some pain. Why is this important? So an unhealthy joint, again, will restrict our movement. But if you want to create a movement, your body will find a way to do it. So let's take an example. A lot of people lack shoulder flexion. You should be able to get your bicep in line with your ear. Now, if you can't do that, people will constantly, or oftentimes they will compensate, right? You might be thinking, oh, shoulder flexion, that's easy. But you might be doing that, might be arching through the spine if you don't have that flexion in the shoulder. So a lot of people have limited shoulder flexion, maybe can only go right about there. Why is that an issue? Well, let's combine that with someone who is in front of their computer all day. Maybe they're on their phone, maybe they're playing video games. That means your upper spine is probably really good at flexion, but maybe not so good at extension. Now let's combine the two. Someone that has limited shoulder flexion and excessive flexion or lack of extension. And let's take a basketball athlete, a shoot, volleyball athlete, a throwing athlete, or maybe you just need to grab something out of your cupboard, but you're lacking shoulder flexion and extension. So what do? You're not just gonna stay there, right? So now maybe your low back has to extend more than it needs to. So an unhealthy joint leads to dysfunctional joints elsewhere, right? Our body is a kinetic chain. Each joint affects another joint. So it leads to compensations. This might not be an issue acutely, but over time, that's what leads to degeneration of the joints, chronic pain, inflammation, etc. So what can you do? Easy, move it or lose it. Our joints need movement to maintain their health. Since it doesn't have vasculature, veins and arteries to pump nutrients in and out, we need to move them to get that fluid in and out of there. A simple way to do this is utilizing cars. No, not driving cars, controlled articular rotations. Basically, all that means is you're controlling the range of motion and taking that joint through each degree of range of motion as controlled as you can. So, for example, shoulder internal, external rotation. The key with cars is to isolate that joint and to create tension elsewhere in the body. This is called irradiation. By creating tension elsewhere in your body, it allows you to create more force where you're actually moving. So plant your feet into the ground, squeeze your glutes, contract your core. You can even make a fist. And again, come down as slowly as you can through the full range and come back out. So that's just one example of a car. Also do shoulder cars, hip cars. You can do cars for all your joints. This is going to be key to improve your joint health and thus improve your movement capacity.